Lord said, confession good. So right now, all I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, but I was just a stranger. All I ever wanted was to be a gangster. I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, but I was just a stranger. All I wanted was to be a gangster. And shot call. To be known with them niggas letting shots off. Either that or the right hand to the top dog. Funny how we see vanity, not the lives lost. Can't be focused on a life that's hopeless. Out there pumping, not doing the Lord again for that hocus pocus. Used to roll with niggas that cooked up with weaponry. Same ones claim they love you. I had your life in jeopardy. And I know my mother wants success for me. But that G should take a girl straight to ecstasy. Remember running with bruh. That's different if I fell up under Rob's wing. Was too sincere for a wish. Shame the Lord's name. Now we afflicted with pain. All I ever wanted was to be respected by stand-up niggas. Not knowing that them handcuffs custom made the all I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, and I was just a stranger. All I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, and I was just a stranger. All I wanted was to be a gangster. I ain't lying, I was close to dying. Knew I wanted to live, but I wasn't trying. I was defiant, not knowing that this ain't how we live. This just how they design. Cause when you in the streets, you get more indebted. They don't tell you won't be on papers and no restrictions. My father said I hard had to make a soft ass. I didn't care, I wanted fear when I walked past. In the place where a black man's blood is cheap. I thank the Lord for the day I was on Lake Street. Pissing in the cup, back and forth to court, found in DC school. I swear it felt like I crawled on that fucking porch. The Lord said, my sheep, they ain't hear my voice. Asked me why I'm UPK, I told them I ain't have a choice. They said God ain't 50-50 and what's gonna come to pass. The Lord called me out the world, and that's how I really fast. All it was to be a gangster. Little did I know I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, and I was just a stranger. All I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I was in danger. Decisions that I made before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him all the time, and I was just a stranger. All I wanted was to be a gangster. I.S.U.P.K until it hit the fan. I want power and a throne, nigga, fuck the grams. All I wanted was to be a gangster, but I was real as a righteous man. And now got the upper hand. Gotta promote this brand. Correct all multitudes until they all understand. If I can't get that crowd, Lord, then put me in the hands. Niggas hit man, reminiscing on the pain that was felt. Shit, I was in the jail. Shit, I needed help. But you was put a man on the shelf. Every crack it felt. All I wanted was to impress niggas with my then nobody but Muhammad. Cause most these one time for the most high, he made me a cutthroat. Cause all I ever wanted was to smash my opponents. Cash not knowing it wouldn't last. Cause all I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I wasn't there. Before the Lord's anger. Prayed to him, stranger. All I ever wanted was to be a gangster. Little did I know I wasn't We about to bombard their whole operation. Certified priests. This shit outrageous. They done made the truth. On the corner, crying aloud, looking hostile. I.S.U.P.K. Father's warfare to the last one. Press rise, let the rich mourn till the sundown. Make it hot, call it compel. This for us in the drugs there. Dwelling in peace to the Lord, call for the blood. Hey, try to decide my death, ain't got beside yourself. Ain't got no love for them crackers. No, just cool intentions. And then my father's house is spinning bitches. I got plenty bitches. Yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter. That they do not ride. And fear the world will rise. And down for your skin. Your life. Try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta heal, let them heal. Till the death that the end is still. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah. Now they shook from bitches. About to take these rappers back to school. My flow cross the line, ain't no coming back. U.P.K. no cowards. The only thing sweet is the honey jet. Righteous is the Lord. Give me rest from my sorrow. And hand down death for them devils. There's no tomorrow. Cause they violence leave a man a stiff corpse. You see a flag in the bench, I see horns in the pitchfork. Go ahead. I see horns in the pitchfork. Go ahead. So please believe it. The white man is a demon. And I ain't gon' go with him to free me. That beat is too weak. They call him purpose. Why this knife ain't broke like ceiling? You got this nigga on his knees. They wanna have peace. We screaming, let this bitch burn at 1,000 degrees. I'm laying in the bosom of revenge. I told her I knew anything she pleased as I squeeze on the double D's. Slaughter, yeah, 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 slaughter. That they do not ride. And fear the world will rise. And die for your skin. You gon' die for your crime. That's why I'm talking to you. So born for your life. Your life. Try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta heal, let them heal. Till the devils that be in this still. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah. The police just shot him for no apparent reason. No reason at all. They asked for license and registration. That's the police officer over there that did it. With the black. I can't really believe they just did this. I'm fucking. You gon' die for your crime. That's why I'm talking to you. I just wanna see my enemies fall. So my niggas stand tall, cause we about to go and get it out. Nigga, I just wanna ball. Look at them 20s where they crawl. I've been praying that my enemies fall. Nigga, I just wanna ball. And I hope you ball too. And every why I gotta keep it true. Nigga, I just wanna ball. Just give me what I'm due. Let my enemies see the living proof, Lord. I just wanna ball. Trying to build my own city, homie. Enough room to put my niggas on it. Shitting on me. Yeah. Public housing we done lived through. Trying to put that in my rear view. Gold rolls, what I still do. I can see the picture with a clear view. Gotta separate the snakes and all you fuck niggas that's gon' hate. Daily pray to God I don't catch another case. But that's a small risk that I feel I gotta take. Only certain niggas they gon' feel this. Still deliver verses on that real shit. If I so my niggas stand tall, cause we about to go and get it out. Nigga, I just wanna look at them 20s where they crawl. I've been praying that my enemies fall. Nigga, I just and I hope you ball too. And if you why I gotta keep it true. Nigga, I just wanna ball. Just give me what I'm due. Let my enemies see the living proof, Lord. I just wanna ball. Don't get up out of pills, homie. Got killers with them rounds on them. Look like I'm dead in front of drum. Look, don't make me make the people rain down on them. I can give a fuck if you rock blue. And I was so whoop from the Fruittown crew. Cops still shoot us every time we move. They hate you, nigga, like they hate me too. Just know that for the hood is a weapon. Build another zone, get protected. Too many sisters in the city been molested. Now I'm stacking soldiers off the block like it's Texas. Woo. Know that truth to give you chills, don't it? Steady ringing in your ears, won't it? If I'm blessed to make a meal, I'ma bust that shit down with my real homies. I just wanna bow. So my niggas stand tall, cause we about to go and get it out. Nigga, I just wanna bow. Look at them 20s where they crawl. I've been praying that my enemies fall. Nigga, I just wanna bow. And I hope you bow too. And if you why I gotta keep it true. Nigga, I just wanna bow. Just give me what I'm due. Let my enemies see the living proof, Lord. I just wanna bow. Hey. Yeah. To all them children, you grow up parents strung out on drugs. Yeah. I just wanna bow. Hope you do too. And I hope you do too. Yeah. Back to the brother that had a real. And she left him without the reason. Yeah. I just wanna bow. I hope you do too. And to the sister, you know what I'm saying, that had that nigga leaving. Yeah. Nigga, I just wanna bow. So my niggas is locked up. I hope you do too. Man, I hope you niggas see a lot of that. Yeah, I just wanna bow.
Shalom. We're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Come out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander GEN.YAHANNA. And since 1969, we've been teaching blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians our true identity according to the Bible, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, or the Lord's chosen people. And of course, that our oppressor is nothing more than the devil that the Bible speaks of. And tonight is the Tuesday Brotherhood class, and we're going to be going over not only how it is that we can strengthen our nation as a whole, but as well as how it was that we used to conduct ourselves as a people before we allowed our oppressor to sink his grimy claws into us and to further corrupt us and to lead us away from following the Lord. So give me 1 second. Let me share the class. So if you want to help this truth spread, share the class, tag all the guys that you know into the class, and do your part so that this truth can reach all 12 tribes. We're going to be starting on the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 7. You understand? So this class is going to be over, or who it is that is ruling over these lands in America, or really, no matter what heathen ruler it is we have over us as a nation. You understand? These rulers, as well as the people, are never going to, truly accept us as a people. So they're always going to look at us like we're the black sheep, like we're something that's plaguing their lands and something they just ultimately have to subdue and rule over, which has been going on since Columbus landed on these shores, since he marched his armies upon peaceful villages, you understand, and warriors that were just looking to protect their families. And that's been going on for a very long time. And we have to realize that just because the times have changed, it doesn't mean that the people have. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. And so this is talking about how it is that we were living as a nation in the land of Egypt. You know, saying after the famine that had occurred. You understand? Because those of you that aren't familiar, Joseph was sold as a slave to the Egyptians. Eventually, he ended up working his way from slave to a high-ranking government official, and basically secured a place for the children of Israel to dwell. And so with him being this man of stature, this man that essentially saved the ancient Egyptians from turmoil and ultimately collapsing from this famine. So he was someone that was well known amongst the Egyptians, and of course amongst the 12 tribes of Israel. And with him doing these different feats to ensure that these disgusting Africans didn't starve, which he didn't do this because he loved the Africans or he felt some type of brotherhood with them. So he did it because it was a vision that was given to him, from the Lord. The Lord tasked him with going and doing this so that the children of Israel could have a place to dwell. But with this scripture right here is letting us know how it is that we were thriving as a nation in these lands, saying how it is that we were having children, and not only just 1-2 children per household, but we were having 5, 6, 8 kids per household, really more than that, because back then we knew that a man could have multiple wives. And women knew that a man could have multiple wives. Saying we knew not to go out and commit abortions. So we knew not to make whores out of our women, and women knew not to be whores. So we knew all these things because we had our culture back then. And to an extent, we can argue that we still have our culture today as the indigenous peoples of these lands, but At the same time, we got to remember that, we weren't able to hold on to everything throughout some, tweaks done to it, this and that, so that we could try to keep things alive. Then, when we were dwelling in the land of Egypt, we knew exactly what was expected of us as a nation, and which is why we were able to have large families. Why it is we were able to ultimately prosper as a people. You understand? We weren't living in complete poverty. Saying we weren't sitting there and afflicting one another, murdering one another. You understand? Shoot, even these other nations didn't have the, grasp on us this time in this, in this scripture right here, didn't have that same grasp on us as they do now. So which is why we were able to prosper. Verse 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So just like back then, whenever we were dwelling amongst these different nations, and then some ruler comes up out of the past, ruler resigned or was murdered and died of causes, whatever it was. And then there's always this new ruler that does not, recognize what it is that the children of Israel have done for their nation. And so just like this new pharaoh that was rose up, and this king over Egypt that didn't know the works of Joseph, a brother that saved his people and his lands from total destruction from this famine, and he ignored all that. So we're about to get into what it is that he does to the children of Israel, because he didn't give a damn about the works of our forefathers. You understand? But that same thing can be applied today. You're saying each time a new president is elected inside the land of America, or even up in Canada, or whatever ruler it is that is over us, anytime that a new one comes to power, they always find a different way it is that they can afflict the Lord's chosen people. Saying how is it they can afflict Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians? And I mean, it's so like so lucky. You understand that the hatred for us is so deep that like these nations, they go out of their way to make sure that they can cause some type of harm or suffering to the children of Israel. You understand? I mean, even after we have fought countless wars for these people, so whether we were fighting for the British, you understand, the French, or fighting for, America, these different European powers, or these different, oppressors that we have fought for and died for, that we have risked families for, that we have killed brothers for. And none of these rulers even take any of that into account, and they just say to hell with those deeds that have been done and the sacrifices and the suffering that these people have gone through. You understand? I'm looking out for my people. I got my own agenda that I want implemented. And it's just so sad, because us as a people, we don't even recognize that no matter who it is that's ruling over us, no matter what time it is, that these people, they will never change. It's been over 400 years, and these people still afflict us the same way. They still look down on us the same way as a nation. If they viewed us as anything even close to equal, we wouldn't be living in the condition that we do out on the reservations. And say when COVID-19 first hit, they wouldn't have sent us body bags as relief and basically just telling us, hey, good luck. You understand? You got this. You understand? That just goes to show you how little they actually care about us as a people. And that's been their same mentality for generations. You understand? For each leader that has came into office, that's been the same mentality. And so really the hatred just gets worse and worse. It don't ever go down, it don't ever decline, it don't ever change. And saying the scriptures let us know that these people will have a perpetual hatred, paraphrasing of course. I mean, sooner or later we're gonna have to realize, I mean, that there is no, earning love from these people. And it's not just presidents. I said that includes the government officials of America, and how it is that there's always some type of ploy to either tug at the heartstrings of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, or some type of ploy to persuade us into believing that this man or this woman is different and that they truly care about us and that they really, it's like you, and that they really want to change the conditions that it is that we live in, that we've been living in. You understand? I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have to stop falling for the tactics of the devil himself. You understand? This oppressor that we have been, living under for so very long. Verse 9, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. It's like, saying one important thing is to take note of is, just like this Pharaoh, this king, sat there and gathered his nation, and let them know, hey, we need to solve this Israelite, this Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian problem. I mean, every single ruler, whether in America or Canada, wherever it is we dwell, and they always make sure that they gather their people together to come against the children of Israel. So, and just like Trump was able to rally all of his white supremacists, all these open racists and closet racists, he was able to rally them against Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, primarily against, Hispanics with these ICE facilities that's going on. And in order to, better his nation. It's just like their motto is "Make America Great Again," which we all know that means take America back to when it is that we had niggas and spics and savages as slaves, so that we can live our old comfortable lives that our ancestors used to live. You understand? So just like Trump was able to do that, even though prior to Trump, we believed that racism was, that was something of the past. That was something that was damn near non-existent nowadays. It's just them few people sprinkled into the masses that are keeping it alive. When with Trump's election, I mean, we seen the racism. All 12 tribes have, not just Hispanics, not just Blacks, but so-called Native Indians as well have seen the racism from, these different devils and from the U.S. government. So not only was he able to gather his people together, but one of his main things it is that he's touched on is, so-called illegal aliens. And so our Hispanic brothers whom, this land also rightfully belonged to, because before, for Hispanics were, ultimately forced into what we now know as Mexico. You're saying, like, shoot, half of this land used to belong to, the so-called Hispanics, until it is that this devil forced them out. You understand? Forced them south with war. You understand? But the thing is that it's not just Hispanics that are seeing all this backlash, even from ICE. You understand? You even got, ICE and these different devils out here sitting there telling Native Indians to go back to your country. You understand? To go back to Mexico. Say, if that ain't an indicator that we are indeed one people, that we are the same as so-called Hispanics, which so many of us want to deny, want to sit there and make claims that, oh no, we was at war with Mexicans. Mexicans, they didn't like us, we didn't like them. We were two separate people. You know what I'm saying? We are one nation. And that's like saying, just because this brother's from a different indigenous tribe 2 states away, that we ain't the same people, because we was warned against one another at some point in time, knowing damn well that most of our, major conflicts that broke out between tribes and between so-called Native Indians and Hispanics, as well as natives and so-called African Americans, most of that broke out because of our oppressor. You understand? Because he sat there and used his smooth words to persuade us and to trick us into believing something that wasn't true. So, I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have to realize that we cannot simply, believe in everything that it is that these people and these politicians tell us. It's like verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them. So how is it now that, our enemies deal wisely with us? Understand? I mean, shoot. I mean, the best thing that they did was to make us feel like we're included in what it is that they can do. So they included us in the voting. They included us in, being able to run for political offices. And they included us in, it's like it supposedly included us in, their laws, all these different things to earn our trust as a nation, to make us believe that we are actually part of their society, is a part of being, a section of this, country that's all about freedom and unity, part of this melting pot that is that they've promoted for so very long. That's all that is. That's all just another tactic. Understand? When all that, including that they have done, that dealing wisely that they have done with us, I mean, when has any of it ever truly benefited us as a nation? I mean, they included, like, so-called included us in voting, but when has our vote ever mattered? You understand? I mean, they included us in politics, but when is it that, any of us that have been elected actually hold any true power, able to make a difference for our community? They've included us in their laws, but yet at the same we are prosecuted in different ways. You're saying in a harsher, much harsher ways. And more times often than not, we just shoot, they'd rather just murder us. You know what I'm saying? Gonna like these devils do, and these different heathen nations. Saying all these different people get fair trials, but when it comes to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, I mean, shoot, you know, we're immediately, we're immediately going to be the ones to sit there and catch a bullet. So you can have all these armed school shooters sitting there shooting up black churches, shooting down the Hispanics in grocery stores. And so you can have all this, and these people can still get taken alive. But yet, when it comes to us just walking the streets, I mean, hey, you fit the description. And before you know it, you got that gun pulled out on you, and it's lights out. But yeah, we were supposed to, fair trial, right? But yet this politician is making a change for our people. So if that's the case, then we wouldn't be living in the conditions that we do nowadays. So there wouldn't even be half of the police killings. As well as, should really whatever else you want to look at that's going on in our communities. So if that was the case, then Trump's task force would have already recovered thousands upon thousands of sisters. But instead, he dealt wisely with us. He told us, "Hey, I'm gonna do something for you savages. I'm gonna create this task force. We're gonna go out and recover all of these sisters that have been taken from your lands, and we're gonna ensure that they come back to your families, even though for hundreds of years we've been the ones taking your sisters, instead of raping and murdering them, making them sex slaves. Even though we've been doing that, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to show you I'm different." And these devils are all the same. It don't matter who it is. It don't matter what faith it is you put in them. A devil's a devil. Lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Saying, I mean, that's common sense right there. I mean, does it not make sense for someone that has been constantly oppressed and destroyed by a certain nation of people? I mean, does it not make sense for them to eventually want to wage war against them, to want vengeance for what has been done to their nation? Understand? But I mean, one of the wisest things it was our oppressor did, besides making us Christian, besides making us love America and these devils and their way of life, you understand, was recruiting us to be parts of their military and to be their soldiers, to, instead of having to worry of if some Asian comes along or some Russian out there that, as far as we're aware of, hasn't done anything to us. Instead of worrying about them coming and recruiting us, sitting there making promises to us, telling us how it is that this and that has been done, and how it's wrong, and how you deserve justice, and arming us, allowing them for us to fight back against our oppressors. But instead of even allowing for the chance of that happening, and they simply told us, "Hey, come fight for your land. Come fight for your country. You're saying your way of life. Just come join the U.S. military. You're saying, I mean, all 12 tribes flood the U.S. military. You're saying we go above and beyond to fight for these devils. I mean, even with the garbage benefits that we get, even with the animalistic treatment it is that we receive from these higher up officials, it's like, so even with all that, we make sure that we fight tooth and nail for the U.S., saying for America, for her people, knowing damn well that we used to wage war against America. You know what I'm saying? We used to sit there and slaughter U.S. troops. You know, saying attack villages, take prisoners, slaves. You understand? We used to be the ones wreaking havoc upon these damn animals, all so that we could survive as a nation. I'm saying, 'cause that's what we had to wage war for our people to survive, for our way of life to be able to continue and to not be wiped out, all because this man that we don't even know is harboring some type of hatred towards us, all because we're the Lord's chosen people. Slacky. I'm going to reread verse 10 from the top. Book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Understand? Shoot. I'm saying, especially with reading that scripture right there, I mean, you should be able to, get the idea of why it is that Trump has targeted Hispanics, and why it is that he is seeking to get our Hispanic brothers out of not only the land of America, but if that devil could, he'd wipe them off the face of this earth. Saying, but Most High Christ, that the God of Israel, saying the nigga God is with us as a people. Because America has done so many horrendous things to the Hispanics. You understand? To South America. Not only has he stolen land from our brothers, not only has he enslaved our brothers, but he's also done his part to ensure that he can destabilize these different countries that our brothers are dwelling in. You understand? Sitting there pumping all kinds of drugs into their communities, pumping guns into the communities, saying paying protection for cartels, paying off government officials so that all this corruption that is going on can continue. And not only that, but he's also like staging attacks on Hispanics along the borders, playing it off like it's cartels. So he's doing all this different wickedness to our brothers. And, one of them devils was like, hey, eventually these people are going to want vengeance. Eventually they're going to want to rise up against us and seek our heads just like we have taken theirs. Which that's how all 12 tribes should feel about these devils. about all of these heathens, because all of these heathens have done such horrendous acts to the children of Israel. You understand? I mean, there ain't a single native in the reservations or outside the reservations that does not know our history, that doesn't know what it is that has happened to us. You understand? I get messages from my cousins all the time talking about, how this and that, was so bad, and how it makes them so mad that it happened, and that, things are still happening to us as a people. You understand? I mean, it's only a matter of time until we get the message, and especially with how things are going now, and with us being on the brink of a race war. Hey, we're gonna have to realize, we're gonna have to accept who the devil is, and accept that no matter what, that we can never actually join to these people, because they'll never accept us. I'm saying you can either choose to fight alongside the white supremacists that hate your brothers, that are going to ultimately, do you how it is that they're doing brothers. I'm saying, I mean, it's happened in the past. You understand? We've had countless tribes, brothers warring against one another, taking the sides of racists, people that have openly stated their hatred for so-called Native Indians, stated how it is that they think we should be wiped off the face of this earth, but yet we still sit there and give our support to them. I'm saying, and we'll fight tooth and nail for that goddamn devil against our own people, against our own brothers, our own kin. So that shows you, what happens when not only you lack brotherhood, but when you lack these laws, statutes, and commandments that the Lord gave to us as a nation. And so you sit there and you say, to hell with my brother, to hell with that man that's been struggling alongside me, that I've lived beside for centuries. It's like, Book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 11. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. So this is letting us know how it is that Pharaoh, along with the people that supported Pharaoh, you understand, set over the children of Israel these men that would afflict us to ensure that, whatever it was the Egyptians needed was being done. So as like, that's like the foremans, that's like the slave masters. That's like the slave hunters. You understand? All these different people who didn't really give a damn about the children of Israel. You understand? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. All they cared about was making sure that not only their job was done, but also making sure that their nation, profited in some type of way. So, like from this, you understand, them having taskmasters over them, ensuring that they're getting constant work, So things are constantly being done. I mean that's gonna build your nation up. I'm saying that's gonna cut back on costs for multiple things. So that's like, think of, shoot. I mean, hey, it's like I don't need to explain it. It's the same slavery that we went through back then under Pharaoh. It's the same slavery we went through while under America, while under the British and the French. All these different oppressors that have ruled over us. You understand? It's the same slavery. No type of um, mercy shown to our brothers and sisters. No type of compassion. All these people, these different oppressors were looking for is, to ensure that their nation came out on top, that the job was getting done, and it didn't matter how many of us were injured or killed in the process. And I mean, that's just so heavy, because we can even look at today and how it is that same mentality that was going on not only back in ancient Egypt, but it's the same thing that was going on back when we were slaves, underneath, these Europeans, underneath these colonizers, and how it is that we were working the fields, how it is we were building up their towns and cities, working in their mines, clearing trees and debris, all these different type of things. The same mentality of not giving a damn about Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian life or well-being. The same thing is implemented even today. I say, especially like that. That's something that is especially noticeable in like factories, and how it is that you can always, see, one of our brothers or sisters with a clear, like disability from the slave work that he or she is doing, whether they have, a limp, they got arthritis, you understand, their hips is messed up, back is messed up, you understand. I mean, there's countless things, that can happen to us, for those of us that are doing these hard labor jobs. And that's just, hard labor. That's just things you can physically see. That's not talking about the mental strain. You understand, the mental abuse that you gotta go through. It's really even physical, because I know in my slave, you're saying one of our coordinators be throwing, tools and metal objects at Hispanics. You understand? All because he wants them to work faster because he's upset. You understand? All this different abuse that we put our bodies through, or that is put upon us by these goddamn devils. I mean, it's that same spirit that was back in ancient Egypt. It's the same spirit that was being circulated back when we were colonized, back when we were being, assimilated. All these different type of things that was happening to, our sovereign nations. And they built Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. You understand? So us as a nation, I mean, we already know who it is that built America. Who it is that has made all of these great cities throughout the lands, these cities well known across the face of this earth. Who it is that actually built them up. You understand? Who it is that flocked to these cities and put their, it's like put their put their wealth into it, put all their money into it, who it is that built up the buildings, built the roads, laid down the pipes so the water can flow through it, built the sewers, did all these different, things in order to make sure that America prospered and thrived. So we already know who it is that did all that. Who it is that made all these sacrifices? Shoot, who it is that died in the process? You understand? I mean, that's only Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So I can only think of one time where these devils was actually building their own, buildings and skyscrapers and all that. And it was during the time that they was jumping off of them, killing themselves. During the Great Depression, when it was that we were actually separate from them, when we had our own things going on. So they were forced to work. They were forced to partake in building their own kingdom up. And during that time, we saw a lot of suffering coming from them. Saying we saw how it was that they had to sit there and sell their children in order for them to get a cabbage and water meal. How it is that their fathers couldn't take it and they walked out on them, on their families. How they couldn't take it, so they jumped off of their job sites and killed themselves. So that's what happens when we separate from these people. You understand? We thrive and they die. Which, I mean, hey, that's something we should want. That's something, I know it's something every brother and sister in the I.S.U.P.K wants. You know what I'm saying? Because when they die and when we thrive, I mean, obviously it's going to better our nation. Of course, it's their choice if they want to die. You understand? I'm not going to risk my life to stop them. I'm not going to go up on one of them skyscrapers and do the tightrope and talk them down from committing suicide. You saying, do your thing. You saying, you got it. You understand that net of white privilege will, catch him. It'll be cool. Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So the more that these heathens sat there and inflicted more back-breaking work upon us as a nation, I mean, shoot, we found more time to sit there and make babies. You understand? I mean, and that's how we've always been as a people. And the way it differs from back then to now is, that back then we knew we could have more than one woman. And so the entire nation knew that. But now, due to us being so assimilated into America's, culture and society, we only believe in one woman, not knowing that is one of the tactics of our oppressor to, try to keep our numbers down as a people. Especially with, so not only is it that America teaches one wife, but they also teach not to have a whole lot of kids. So when you get one wife, you have like, maybe 3 kids with that woman. And that's pushing it. You understand? I mean, I already said that's just one of our oppressor's tactics. So that's something that has been pushed on all of the children of Israel. That's why we have so many, Planned Parenthoods popping up in our communities, You understand? Whether it's in the ghettos and the barrios or in the border towns of the reservations. You understand? It's all part of the bigger plan for our oppressor. So we got to remember, and this damn beast. You understand? He's a man all about trying to find different ways to afflict the children of Israel and to do what it is that he can to murder us and to keep us down. I'm going to read verse 12 from the top. Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So a perfect example of that scripture is definitely our Hispanic brothers. Because, throughout the different decades and generations of of America afflicting our brothers, whether it is calling ICE on them or trying to deport them, whether it's cutting wages or giving below a minimum wage, or whatever it is that our Hispanic brothers might face. So even with all of that, our brothers are still they're still here. So they're still coming to America, finding different ways to get here. So and having to track through, jungles and deserts, crossing rivers. You understand? Having to flee from white supremacists trying to stop our brothers from, getting to these lands, literally hunting them down. And now they gotta sit there and climb over a wall, dig under a wall. Shoot, some of them just straight up picked up pieces, move it to the side, and when they get through, they put it right back like nothing ever happened. You understand? We are the most innovative people out here is a nation. And it doesn't matter what it is that we have to go through. We are survivors as a people, though. And even with our Hispanic brothers being locked up on the borders, having families ripped apart. So you got brothers, sisters, and children coming up missing. You got sisters and children that are being, sexually assaulted. And you got sisters that are being, forcefully sterilized. Even through all of that barbaric treatment that it is that they're going through. So our brothers are still here, still surviving, still pushing, still looking to better themselves and our people. So, and even with all of that is going on with our brothers, you cannot tell me that we are not the same nation. Because we already know how it was that our ancestors, have had all these things happening to us. How it is that our families have been split apart, whether through war, slavery, through the Trail of Tears, in the different reservations. How it is that our sisters have been forcefully sterilized. How it is that our children have been molested and murdered in the boarding schools, have been ripped from their families. I'm saying the same thing that are happening to Hispanics now, it's the same thing that was happening to us back in the day. Same thing that is happening to our so-called African American brothers, the Judites. Same thing that was happening to them back then, it was happening to us. It was happening to Hispanics, and it's still happening to Hispanics. Listen, there is no division amongst us. You understand? We are one people, whether you accept it, believe it or not. You understand? We are the 12 tribes of Israel, the Lord's chosen people upon the face of this earth. And you can tell by what it is that we go through as a nation that we are the 12 tribes of Israel. It's like verse 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. As a rigor, that's essentially like, doing back-breaking work. It's like, so what's some examples of us doing back-breaking work, back when we was slaves, or back before we had, modern jobs, you could say. Or I guess you could say, like unions or guidelines laid out. So, for instance, shoot, for our brothers, you're saying we already know picking cotton. Saying out there for, shoot, really damn near before sun up to really past sundown, just picking cotton. Shoot, for us, picking tobacco, the same slave hours as our brothers. And the same thing applies for our Hispanic brothers, and should they even do that now, out in the fields, saying picking, saying tomatoes and beans, avocados, picking lettuce, picking all these different agricultural things in order for America to stay afloat, and they're doing that from damn near before sunrise to sundown, and they are getting bare minimum payment for it. I'm talking cents, slave pay. And that is just agricultural work. So we already know back then we was the plow horse. Understand? We was the one dragging plows back in the day, making sure that fields were properly done so that crops could be grown. Saying now we work any and every job that we can in order to make ends meet, doing all this grueling work. So I know a lot of us on the reservations. We be seeking work for any construction company, seeking work for oil rigs, saying doing whatever it is that we can just to get something so that we can eat. And really that can apply for damn near any slave that is that we go to. Because should we go to a factory, you got to break your goddamn back. Should you go to fast food, you got to damn near break your back in order to work in there as well. And if you don't, you best believe you're going to be fired for, it's like, the next person that comes in. So that's how America has always treated us as people. And guess what? No matter how much it is that we've voted, no matter how much we've protested and marched and created unions and all of that, no matter how much we've done that, that has never changed the conditions we work in, that we live in, all that. We still live in the worst possible conditions. We still work in the worst possible conditions. We do all this in literal hell, yo. I'm saying living and working in hell. It don't get much worse than that. So like I said before, you can always find one of our people who's got a broken body from his or her, because it is so physically demanding of us, because it's so mentally demanding of us as well. Time check. Yeah, I got time. Verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage. You understand? So naturally, with it's like I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it. So naturally, with you having to live in bitter conditions, or like let's say less than ideal conditions, live or work in it. You understand? I mean, anyone in their right mind would seek to get some type of advice or relief from what it is that they're going through. And so like, for those of us that have to slave away for 10, 12, 14 hours on a construction site, or in a factory, really any of these slaves that it is that we're constantly slaving for, you understand, and with the harsh conditions that it is that we have to work in, we seek to find some type of advice that'll help us with, you could say, coping with the condition that we're in. And so a lot of us, especially on the reservations, and of course, with many of us not having work out there, with us being so secluded, not really having anything to do out there, this is also a reason we seek vices, that we seek to find some type of relief from our everyday lives. But most of us, we seek alcohol, or we seek drugs to try to escape from this hell that is that we live in. You understand? From being a slave every goddamn day. And that is something that is normal for a slave to do, to try to find something to ease the burdens that it is that we go through, to try to find something that is going to take your mind off of this hell. You're sitting there thinking, God damn, I just slaved 10 to 14 hours. I ain't getting nothing for it. I got to go back tomorrow, do it again, the day after that, the day after that, and the day after that. I mean, it's going to be natural for you to sit down and be like, how the hell can I escape this? How can I get some type of relief from this life that it is that I'm living? And sadly, most of our people turn to alcohol. We turn to drugs. We turn to something that we think makes us feel good. We think is going to take our mind off of it. When in reality, as people, we should be turning to the Lord. You're saying, turn to this book right here. You're saying it's got the solution to all of our problems. And not only should we turn to this book right here, you're saying, because once you actually get in these scriptures, you'll learn, hey, I gotta gravitate more towards my brothers. You understand? I got to lean more on my brethren in order for me to, be able to survive this, this life it is that I'm living. It's like in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field, all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. Saying like we went over before, everything that is that we end up doing for America and, for the Canadian government, for all these different empires and kingdoms that is we dwell in, we always make sure that we, break our backs for these people. It's like, you not even make sure, because most times we're forced to do so. And not being able to find a slave so that we can take care of our families, we got to go above and beyond to make sure that we're able to put food on the table. You understand? That we're able to keep the lights on, keep the heat on, do all of this in order for us to survive. And our oppressor knows this. And saying he knows that we truly don't have any other option except for just depend on him and him alone. At least with the current state of our people. Saying our people came into the I.S.U.P.K, America was shut down overnight. And saying not even overnight. You're saying give it 8 hours, an average work day. So we'll teach every single Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian how it is that we can better our lives, how it is that we don't have to waste away, our days slaving for people that hate us, how it is that we don't have to cling to these people, and how it is that all we got to do is come back to following the Lord, come back to having a unity with our brothers. Because in the past, that's something we used to have. And when you look at the different communities that were like that, we was prospering. But lo and behold, we allow for the devil himself to come in and we believe his lies and to separate us. It's like verse 16. Slaki, verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shepharah, and the name of the other Puah. Verse 16. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So basically, this is letting us know how it is that, Pharaoh told all of the midwives, women to help sisters deliver babies. He told all of them, hey, anytime one of these, women have a child, if it is a son, you make sure you murder that child. And if it's a woman, you leave her alive. She's cool. You understand? And nowadays, instead of them being a goddamn, midwife, and instead America has tasked the Planned Parenthood with ensuring that these children don't survive, that our children don't survive. Shoot, and really, I mean, really, Planned Parenthood has a midwife in the room with these sisters trying to get abortions, saying, encouraging them and let them know everything is okay. You know, saying that the baby's in a better place, this and that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's really the same goddamn thing. Saying there's a reason that it is that, you know, it's always the baby boys that are targeted. You understand? The boys that are children and teens. You understand? Not only is it because, you know, the male is what really keeps the nation going. You understand? Because your nationality is determined by the seed of your father. So not only does the male keep the nation going, not only is the male the warrior of the nation to ensure that, you know, the people are protected. You understand? But we're also the ones that are supposed to be guiding these sisters, making sure that they don't go down, you know, the wrong path. You understand? Because I mean, without proper male guidance in the community and in the household, I mean, shoot, just look at our sisters now. And so not only do our sisters lack protection, which that is some that is, you know, most definitely evident with all these sisters that are missing, all these sisters that have been murdered, you know, that have had cases come up, sisters being beaten by some unknown assailant. And so not only are they not protected, but they have no guidance, which why so many sisters are being whores, why they are committing abortions, why it is they are sleeping with our enemy, just doing all these different type of things that is not only against the Lord, but is against the teachings of our ancestors. And so you eliminate the male out of the nation, I mean, you got a nation in shambles, you understand, in turmoil. And our oppressor, he knows that. He knows exactly what he has to do in order to keep us weak, to keep us down. Verse 17, but the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. You understand? That is such a heavy scripture. You understand? To show how it is that these women feared the Most High God more than they did, you know, this man, it's like this man of stature, this man that has power and wealth. I mean, because nowadays, you know, sisters fear more of losing their party lifestyle than they do the Lord. They fear more of losing what could be more than they do the Most High God. You see, we got everything backwards around here. Verse 18, and the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And so Pharaoh's basically asking these two women, you know, why the hell do you not kill? Why are you not killing these Israelite children? Saying, why are you not throwing them in the river? Why aren't you dashing them against stones? You understand? Cutting them up, doing all this and that. Which, if Planned Parenthood started shutting down, if brothers learn to tell sisters not to commit a goddamn abortion, to not open your legs up if you're not ready for a baby. If sisters learn to tell themselves, I'm keeping this child, I'm not going to be a murderer. I'm going to make sure that my nation is able to survive. I'm not going to worry about that career. And so that would cause Planned Parenthood to shut down. And then before you know it, America is going to be having all these different meetings and committees and conferences about why it is that abortions are on a decline in our communities and all that. Saying which eventually, saying these Planned Parenthoods are going to shut down. The Lord is going to shut down these different establishments that are murdering his chosen people. It's only a matter of time. It's like verse 19. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. Verse 20. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. Verse 21. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. Verse 22. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. So Pharaoh put out a decree, letting his people know any Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian child, that is a male, you make sure you murder, that child. Put him to death, but you keep the females alive. And that ain't the first time a decree has been put out on the heads of our children. And the English and the French used to pay settlers, for scalps, for scalps of men, women, and children. They used to pay these devils for the ears and noses of children. And they used to be making bets, on how many children they could kill, on different ways it is that they could kill them. So they was doing all these things. And really, that's what officers get paid for nowadays to do, is to gun down our children, to make sure that they do not have the chance of rising up and being true leaders of the nation of Israel. Which is why you can always turn on the TV and see where it is that a brother has been gunned down. A sister has been gunned down. How it is that our children come up missing, never to be seen again. And if they are seen again, they are nowhere near being the same, and nor will they ever be. So it truly does not matter, how much it is that we think these people have changed or they're going to change, because they're always going to remain the exact same as they have been when we first made contact with them. They're always going to be murderers, thieves, liars, rapists. And the scripture said they will have a perpetual hatred for us. And so that is an everlasting hatred, something that does not end and will never end. We just got to recognize it. We did in the past when we had to wage war and defend our lands and our people. It's only a matter of time till we realize it once again and join to our brothers. And stand with that. I majum, which means to stand. We're going to give a courteous salute to the brothers watching online. Men of Israel, Amajim Shabbat, Amajim Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakathum, Ezmatah. Going to give a courteous salute to the sisters watching online. Amajim Shabbat, Amajim Barak, Yahweh Shamar Al Thum Ba Hashem Yahushua. Ezmatah. Class dismissed.